This is a whiskey you're not really gonna get, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. One of our students donated it, and it's a great way to talk about this distillery in general. But I dig the Still Austin guys, and it's fitting for the subject we're about to talk about. Look at that fanciness right there. Oh, that's cool. I don't know that I looked at that whole interior artwork. Mark Burkhart did the art. Okay. By the way, this bottle was brought to us by Michael Schneider, a patron saint of whiskey at one point, and a Somm. And look, there's eggs in a basket on the top of this cork. That's cool. This is a special edition cigar blend release that Still Austin did. I'm going to use it to talk about cask strength. So in the Facebook group, Will Sharp, come on now. Oh, it's sealed. That's right. We never opened this one, or you haven't opened it yet. This is the first round. Will Sharp, not in the Facebook group, but in the comments, 9258 said, hey, great video. Can you talk? We talk about barrel entry proof, which I shot a whole video on. The proof that the new make goes into the barrel and how that proof level changes what you get from the barrel as things age. And he said, hey, what the heck is cask strength? And then he followed by a comment about he's talked to some people and they've described it. And he says, how could it possibly be the same in a distillery who's releasing multiple batches of a whiskey and they're all cask strength? How could that always be the same proof at this one distillery? And I went, wait, what? And so I have opinions. Surprising, I know. By the way, I'm Daniel Whittington, Chancellor of Wizard Academy and Whiskey Marketing School. So what the heck is cask strength? First, let's talk practical. Ooh, nice. When people talk about cask strength, they are typically referring to the idea that the barrel coming out of a whiskey when it's done aging, the whiskey coming out of a barrel when it's done aging, that's a very weird visual, gets put in a bottle without being proofed down any further. So when it's done aging, say it's a 6-year-old barrel and we're ready to bottle this, whatever the proof is in that barrel, when it goes into the bottle, that's the proof. That's what 99% of the people in the industry think of when you say this bottle is cask strength. It means we're getting to taste the whiskey exactly as it came from the cask. And that's a consumer assumption. It's also an industry assumption most of the time. But to talk about why, I'm going to answer a few other questions I've seen pop up in the comments, which is angel share questions. So how is it that if you put whiskey into a barrel at a maximum of 125 proof, which is 62.5, how can you get a whiskey coming out that's 130 proof or 140 proof, right? How can it go up? Or if you put whiskey into a barrel at 110, how can it come out at 120? And the answer is angel share. So barrels are liquid tight, but not airtight. That's how whiskey ages. If it was airtight, it wouldn't age. In order for something to age, you need the give and take of air to create barometric pressure differences and to force spirit into the wood and then to draw out and then suck whiskey out of the wood and back and forth. And that oxygenation creates the third layer of the second and third layer of subtractive and transformative notes in a whiskey. And but it's not all even. So like in Scotland, you will find angel share will often be alcohol. And so over time, as a whiskey ages, the proof will actually drop over time. And the risk in places like Ireland and Scotland is that sometimes the proof will drop so low, it quits becoming whiskey. Now, this doesn't happen in 2 years, but you get these 30-year-old barrels and they pull a sample and it goes below 40% alcohol. Oh, shit. It's not whiskey anymore, because what's evaporating out of those barrels is ethanol first. And mostly it has to do with humidity. mostly. There's other things at play there, but if you have a really high humidity, then because environment and air and temperature, they always want to even out, always. So the molecules in hot and cold, they always want to mix and even out. And so if you have a relatively tightened space and you have 30% humidity, this is made up numbers, 30% humidity inside of a barrel and 40% humidity outside the barrel, then the air is going to want to come, moisture is going to want to go into that barrel. Ethanol is going to come out, right? And in the reverse, if you have a really low humidity outside and high humidity inside because there's liquid floating, then you're going to get water molecules going out first, and that's going to raise the ethanol content of the barrel, right? And so that's how cask strength can change, up and down. Now, how does that, with that information, how could a distillery, a craft distillery, say, or even a big one, release a line that always had exactly the same proof, but was called cask strength? Well, that's where we get into ranty Daniel after we come back from this. So this gift, and by the way, I'm friends with the guys at Still Austin, or the humans, they're not all dudes, at Still Austin, and I've worked with them in business. I've worked with them in the industry, in Texas Whiskey Association. I've hung out with them and had drinks, and I think they're great people. I can't possibly be objective about these kinds of things. I will try to tell you what I think about it, but in my head, as I hold this bottle, I can see Chris Seeley in my head. I can see John in my brain. I feel like there's a part of me that knows they're going to see this, and that's going to change what I say. So there's my qualifiers. This is the cigar blend. What's a cigar blend? Historically, of the distilleries that have made cigar blends in the U.S. Or actually, outside, it just means a whiskey that goes great when paired with a cigar. That's really it. Dalmore even had a cigar blend, but it's really, you're going for a specific direction, a specific flavor profile meant to sort of pair really well with a cigar. And I have not read the write-up, but it's really fine print. Okay. There's some things happening in this bottle that are whiskey nerd level conversation that I'm going to have to explain some things, but let's just smell it. So there is that really like roasted tanniny barrel mixed with like deep sugars and dark roasted notes that comes in with a high impact Texas whiskey. But there's a sort of lightness that floats around inside of there that's really nice as well. It's a little dark fruit sliding into barrel tannins. And for some reason, it smells soft, which I don't know what that means, but in my brain as I smell it, it's a 53%, I think. I looked at it earlier. Yeah, 53%, 106 proof. Doesn't smell like it. Okay. Really dry and kind of dusty notes in there too. Ooh. Wow. Okay. So, the finish is really, really dry and corn dust mixed with a lingering sort of like dark chocolate bitterness. That's not quite just wood, but it's bitter. And then middle of the palate as it goes down. That's on the sides. On the middle of the palate, it's just this pure kernel of the sweetness of a dark chocolate. But in the front, it's this sort of light fruit, darker fruits, and not quite as much as you get from like a barley heavy, but like baked good fruit pastry looking direction. It's, man, this is all lows and low mids in EQ spectrum with this just like really delicately balanced high sparkles that float across the top. It randomly, what popped into my head was Massive Attack. It was the song that ended up becoming the theme song to the TV show House. That boom, boom, boom. and then that vocal note that comes in, and that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing this like low, down, 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 brooding, and then across the top of it, this like pristine high vocal just floats across the top. It's very interesting. So this is a blend of their red, white, and blue corn bourbons, distilled 100% Texas grain, 5-year-old, blended through slow water. They say this on the website: slow water reduction and Petit Eau, which is a brandy process that. So Nancy Fraley and John, what's John's last name? Schreppel? Sorry, John. Dang it. Anyway, John and Nancy blended this together. It's really well blended. That's not surprising, because of course it is. But they use this process that when I looked at it, I was like, man, you're going to have to explain that one. Most people have no idea what you're talking about. Slow water reduction, we know. A bunch of people in the industry in the US are doing this now, and we talked about it in the barrel proof video. This has to do with adding water to the barrel while the whiskey is aging in order to bring out different notes in what's pulling from the barrel and how the whiskey's altering as it ages. It also lets you start to bring things down to a proof that you think you might want to bottle it without doing it all at once at the end once you've dumped all the barrels. Petit Eau is a process where they take a mostly water, like 80%, 70% water, right, mixed with product. Like in the brandy industry, it would be a brandy watered down to 30% or 20% or 40%, where basically it's too low proof to be the product. Like in the barrel, if this is 80% water, that's not whiskey, right? But what you're doing is you just let that sit in a barrel and you use that aged product to proof down your blend. Instead of proofing down your blend, say you're at 58 and you want to get this down to 53. Instead of just taking water and dumping it into the blend and bringing it down to 53, you add an aged water, for lack of a better description. It's not pure water. It got enough alcohol in it that you don't get like algae growing in the barrel or funk growing in the barrel, right? It's enough alcohol to kill anything and that it can actually age and it can actually interact with the wood. But you're using that water to proof down your spirit. And so instead of just adding water, you're also adding aging notes and character to it. It changes the flavor, but it can lend depth and complexity to a proof down process. Super nerdy. I love it. Petit Eau just means small waters in French. Small water, like a little bit of water adding to it. The brandy region uses it, has for centuries. It's Nancy sort of started bringing it into the American industry in whiskey, and now a bunch of people are now doing that. Because we all we all learn from each other in the craft industry and non-craft and whiskey in the U.S. and Scotland. Like we all know each other. Most of us know each other. We hang out at conventions. We see each other at events. We talk to each other on email and phone. And when someone finds something really interesting and starts doing it, they leave a distillery and start working for another distillery. They'll take that practice to another distillery. And so you'll see a whole bunch of people who show up with like, hey, this is a really cool thing we should do. And then if it works, you'll see it over years slowly spread through the industry as like a really great trade practice. And so a lot of people do slow water reduction now in the craft industry. Not all of them worked with Nancy Fraley, but there's sort of like, the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. That there was probably some involvement with somebody who had brandy experience or may have worked with Nancy directly. It sort of has all of these little boundaries, and I think that's really fun and really great. I'm going to add a little water to this, just water, not Petit Eau. And we're going to talk about the rest of cask strength. So, man, this is a long video already. The term, this is where it's a kicker. So, refresher, cask strength means from the barrel to the bottle. To most people in the industry, that's what we think. It's not a legal term. Nobody polices the term cask strength or barrel proof bottle. No one polices these terms. So you can put that on your bottle and you can mean whatever you want to mean by it. And so there are some distilleries that their cask strength release, for example, is like always 55 or always 56. Well, how can you release 30 different barrels and every one of them just happens to be exactly 56% alcohol? The answer is you can't. So when you find a distillery where release after release after release after release is the identical proof, and they're using cask strength on the label, they don't mean what most people mean by that. They mean higher proof than the base level of 40 that we could have done it at. This is our higher proof offering. That frustrates me. I think it's lying and f***ing with the community. Because I think it's disingenuous. Because the vast majority of consumers are going to see cask strength and immediately without research, they're going to tell and think, yeah, this is just as it came out of the barrel. And if you've proofed that crap down, it is not cask strength anymore. Guys, this is not cask strength. Is it higher proof? Yeah. Why did they hit 53? Probably because that's where it tasted the best. Do you see cask strength on this bottle? Nope. But you do see non-chill filtered. That's important, right? If you want to proof your offering down to 55 because that's what you like all of your high proof offerings at, fine. But using the term cask strength if you've added water after it comes out of the barrel is just kind of lying to your people. So cut it out. Look, you're not going to get in any legal trouble. You're probably not even getting in consumer trouble. But when 90% of the people in an industry use a term to mean this, and you don't, like you should say something about that. Or maybe stop. I'm just saying. And that's what leads to consumer confusion, like the question that Will Sharp put in here. Because you're using a term that everyone else defines one way, and you just aren't gonna. But you know, that's just my opinion. Let's see what the water did. Oh, hey, way sweeter, way more of that like dark fruit pastry note. The tannins dropped a little with that water. It's probably brought down to about 50% alcohol. Oh yeah. I like it both ways. This way the dryness at the finish is a little more mild. It's a little softer and sweeter right now. If that settled, it would probably come back. I get a little bit more of the fruit pastry note. This is an example of the kind of thing I like best from Still Austin. I think their lower proof offerings are fine, but when they put out things like this, this is when I'm like, there, that's what I like. That's my favorite representation of what Still Austin's capable of, and this one's right there on the money. Michael Schneider waited in line to get this bottle for us, and for that we're grateful to him. And thank you to Will for the question, and I'm glad that you are here. Cheers to you. If you like your videos cask strength, right out of the barrel, actually cask strength videos, like and subscribe.